Hey, thanks for joining me today. You're listening to The Sit Down with Romangrey. For the past couple years, and even up until today, I've been struggling with balance, and more specifically, the ideals of intimacy and isolation. This is actually a stage of psychosocial development based on the work done by a man named Erik Erikson, and is actually what the majority of people between the age of 20 to 40 struggle with. This back and forth between wanting to be close and intimate with others, and yet also somehow avoiding intimacy. Trying to find an equilibrium between being open and vulnerable to fear of commitment or judgment. So many of us develop tough outer shells to deal with adult life, but in the process of it, lose sight of what it means to be so connected with another human being. A lot of times we're scared, and I'm no exception. Maybe it's protecting ourselves due to the result of a previous rough relationship, or actually a self-destructive cycle that we don't want to admit. For me, it was this tug of war feeling so naked and so exposed, and not having a single clue of how to navigate it because no one had told me what this was or how to overcome it. I had been such a recluse for so long that this felt like it was tearing into the very fabric of my being. While I've gotten a lot better, it's something I still have to work through. And I'm here to also tell you, you're not alone if you're currently feeling these things or have ever felt anything similar. You're not alone. This ballet we play with these two sides of ourselves can end up making us feel so lonely or not good enough. The major questions we tend to ask ourselves when it comes to this part of life are, will I be loved? Or will I be alone? Am I capable of being so close with someone else? Maybe I'm just not one of those people. Why can't this be like the movies? And those questions only scratch the surface like so many other things in our life. When we talk about intimacy, we typically associate it with romantic relationships, but it also expands to the deep relationships we have with friends, family, and even ourselves. Sex is the easy part, relatively speaking. The real difficult part is finding that emotional intimacy and closeness and not running away from it. That's why it's so easy for people to have one-night stands or fleeting relationships, because there's no real emotional attachment. There's no depth. But that's where the real growth occurs. We almost innately try to avoid anything that is difficult. Try to go the path of least resistance. But that's not going to work in this case. It's at this monumental stage in our lives that we need to really understand ourselves. We need to be willing to be open and honest with ourselves and everyone else around us. When you really think about it, if we can't, as individuals, fulfill this stage of life, it can have really big implications for the rest of our life. If you decide to run away from this and think you'll get away, you're wrong. You'll be 60, 70, 80 years old, and you will probably feel alone, forgotten, and misunderstood. But it's because you never allowed yourself to feel companionship or partnership. You never allowed yourself to feel connected and understood. And not doing that is honestly one of the scariest things I can think of. If we don't work on ourselves, you can't expect to have a thriving relationship. So much of the time we project onto other people. We project our inadequacies, project our fears, project all these things that actually have nothing to do with that situation, friend, or lover. If we have a poor sense of self, then we're more likely to have less committed friendships and relationships. Therefore, more likely to suffer from loneliness, isolation, potentially depression. As much as we all like to think and say that we don't need anybody and that we'll be fine, we're wrong in a sense. We're social beings who internally crave connection. We find ourselves yearning for that compassion, closeness, empathy, and understanding. We owe it to ourselves to figure ourselves out. All our desires, all our downfalls, all of it. It's what makes us human. And you don't want to run away from the very things that make us feel so alive. Don't run away from fear. Don't run away from love.
Hey guys, you're still here, still tuned in. Well then you're amazing, and I appreciate you a lot. As always, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you liked it, then please share it and recommend it with others. It really does help. And until next time, stay well, and stay safe.